Listeners, Al Martin here. Thank you for listening as always. Look, I'm here again with part 2 with Ian Smith, and it's so good. We talk about Lighthouse Technology, which he's a founder of, a closed, free AI model, pros and cons there, back to the data center, and then we do a rapid fire in the end, and we talk about entrepreneurship. So I think you'll find it very informational. I certainly did. Thank you for listening.
Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Well, look, I got to make sure I get it straight. I think I got some of the concepts. Let me repeat them back to you, and I want you to correct them for me. First one is you're optimizing cloud environments, assessing data. Secondly, you're exploring the opportunity to have a competitive offer against the hyperscaler, which is really back to the data center. And then third, you have the ability to create conversational infrastructure on top of everything. So not only conversational infrastructure, but you can essentially add conversation or interactive conversation around the sales process. So let me try it again. Optimize the cloud environment, get back to the data center, and use conversational AI on top of all of those to make it possible.
Yes, it feels like too much, but this is how I think about it. I think we're in a very digitally aware culture where show is more important than tell. And what I've realized is getting into critical infrastructure into the data center, you have needed to have built trust with the client. You need to have demonstrated this technology. So when I looked across the application of where we can apply AI and RAG, actually within that whole marketing data, that complex situation that isn't really working right now, that we could apply this technology there and demonstrate the value of putting a conversation layer over information. And by demonstrating it that with no business risk, but actually showing clients and vendors how powerful this technology can be, then I think the next stage is then, okay, well, how do we actually bring that value, that conversational value to the systems themselves? So I think there's probably a chronology to this, Al, in terms of the adoption model.
How early are you in the Lighthouse venture?
Time-wise?
I don't care if it's time-wise or whether you want to give me an analogy. Are you inception? Have you just scratched the surface? It was on a napkin yesterday, or you feel like, no. If there are 10 parts of this, we're through the first 5, and now all the real hard stuff is coming up around AI, et cetera. Where do you think you are?
It's a great question. It's very early, but I'll tell you where we are. We started off seduced by the ease of use of ChatGPT. We were straight on a ChatGPT as a conversational platform to rag into products like IBM Turbonomic, to rag into websites, this sort of thing. And it just made it so easy. And what I've learned on this journey is the seduction of ease of use. You very quickly start to realize the cost, which is transparency and control. And our application of ChatGPT is a conversational layer over marketing materials and a couple of products like Turbo. We realized the limitations of ChatGPT, the fact that a closed AI model is doing things and being that you can't control. Now, that led us down, if I'm very honest, that led us down the IBM route. And we got into what's next.ai. And when I went to Hersley and I spoke to the data scientists and I did the education, I realized the approach that IBM are taking, which is an open AI model.
Yes, truly open.
What is actually, when you open it and you can see all of the slider bars and switches that allow you to define the way data is ingested into that system and the way the language is formed back to the user. And for me, within enterprise application, the most important thing is consistency and predictability of the language. And when we were using ChatGPT, because it's so easy to use, this closed model, really cheap to start with, but then we actually started to get into the application against real products in real customer environments, which we are in, generating revenue off the back of. We realized very quickly that this closed model, and you may call me cynical, Al, but I think if anything's free when you get it, I'm almost worried about closed free things because I'm thinking, where are they monetizing? We quickly realized that ChatGPT was great for quick easy to use consumer applications, but that transition from a conversational AI into an enterprise or reliable and consistent product that customers need to really rely on, it was a whole different set of openness and configuration and parameters. So we're past that point, and we're now into tuning and configuration of how these products are working.
I'm just curious, as a side question on this, do you think IBM does an adequate job of advertising our open strategy, or do you think it's not well understood in the community?
I think that back to my point on building this platform for marketing data to show, I think the classic one on this, right, is the two functions of AI: training and inference. The inferencing language model, that it's actually creating your outbound content. IBM talk about granness, right? I don't think anybody really understands what granite is or why it's different. And IBM talk about it. Look, it's labeled data, it's predictable, it's neutral. We know what information the AI has been trained on. Okay, so that's the sales motion, right? The impact of that is completely incoherent to the customer until they actually see it. And what we found in the context of a critical application, you asking a system to provide performance data, the Granite model comes back almost machine-esque in its language. It's objective, it's to the point, it gives you the answer quickly. Within seven words, the traditional, the historical performance metric of an application I had perceived through natural language in the Granite model. When I used ChatGPT, it gave me a paragraph about the weather's good today, and because of that, the system's running quite quickly, but maybe it could run a bit quicker. So the language that it was creating the response in was wordy. It was nice. It made me feel good. It was giving me all the triggers that a consumer would want out of a consumer product. It was quite liberal in its approach and its construct and its semantics. However, it's closed and unconfigurable. The Granite application is giving me something that's very objective, very focused, trusted, because the data is labeled. It's not from some crazy internet data set. And I think that when IBM talk about that, they talk about it like an engineering exercise. When you realize the difference in an AI output based on a controlled labeled data set and an unlabeled, like Llama or other large language model, it's night and day in the application of business and infrastructure. I don't want a friendly, happy AI telling me that I've got 3 VMs down, a performance problem in AWS, and a cost issue coming up. I want an objective, mechanical system that is using natural language, but in a consistent and efficient way. And I don't think IBM is doing a particularly great job right now of articulating the impact of its technology in a way that people understand. Which is an opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's all good. I would have been surprised if you didn't answer that way. So no, it's all good. I appreciate the candor. Speaking of candor, do you really think the industry is ready to move back to the data center?
I think it already is. It already is. In the last 6 months, we've engaged with a number of biotech clients, a number of retail clients, all of which are sizing. If I'm very objective, it's hybrid. It's hybrid. They're continuing to consume public cloud. But what we're seeing is the emergence of workloads in wholly owned infrastructure, physically secure and air-gapped and separated from hyperscaler shared infrastructure. So yes, there is some creativity in my projection of the increased motion away from the cloud vendor to on-premises. However, 3 or 4 data points around increasing price, increasing dissatisfaction with price, a number of high-profile outages based on performance and upgrades that would have been easily avoided in a wholly owned data center with managed systems. So I think hybrid's probably going to be with us, but a component of hybrid is on-premises, wholly owned infrastructure that, if optimized by generative AI, I think could be so efficient and compelling, it will functionally and commercially drive more use for the client.
Look, in fairness, I'm seeing a little bit of everything, which probably ties into the hybrid comment that you make. I see some clients, honestly, they're still just now making their transition to the cloud. And in some sense, I'm wondering, what I want to say, can be wise by abolishing a plan if it's a bad plan, but I felt like they just, had it on the list and they had to get it done and they're still getting it done. I got other clients, to your point, that are like, yeah, we're bringing it back, costing us too much money. We've got a lot of clients that have went to the cloud and then are trying to go multi-cloud to have more optionality. Although they got to be careful of egress fees. So they're trying to figure out how to manage that. And I think Lighthouse has got to be set up pretty well for being able to measure. That goes back to that first one you mentioned when we talked about optimize the cloud environment. I see a lot of clients trying to do it themselves, and they can do it themselves to some degree, but the great tooling with AI can save you a ton of money from that perspective. So look, are they coming back to the data centers? I think you are. It's kind of like the Anderson Horowitz, but that was like 2016 or something when he said the cloud is dead or whatever. And it was, but I still haven't seen the edge really take off, which is interesting. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. You're seeing more edge devices, but I'm talking about really smart buildings. There are a few out there, but typically they're not being refactored in a pace that I thought they might have at one point in time. Where do you think the edge fits on this?
I think COVID was profound on its deceleration of some of those technologies. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, actually, even in saying that. I was thinking when you talk about office blocks and buildings, we saw a whole divestment of in those type of infrastructures. But I see sensorization is improving. In some ways, IoT, edge, it's kind of evolved into the normality now. I don't see it as a sector like I maybe once did. The whole IoT, smart sensors, they're here and they're growing, and there's some fascinating businesses coming off it. And I think that if you think about AI, I have this motion that I'm seeing where machine learning models were traditionally built on and trained off static legacy data sets. Well, what we're seeing now is the emergence of real-time processing of instrumentation data via AI in real time. And you could argue that is an edge application, right? It's not under this brand of IoT or edge, but it's happening. It is happening and it is out there. Cars, look at the Tesla evolution, self-driving capabilities. That is happening at the edge. It's just that the edge isn't really a thing anymore. It's just the thing.
So a couple more questions on Lighthouse. I don't want to let this go. What's your go-to-market? And if I was a client out there, where should I consider Lighthouse? And then the second part to that question is going to be, all right, I see where you are today. I understand your go-to-market. Where do you want to be in a year? If things go well, where will Lighthouse be in a year?
The first set of clients that we've found success and traction with have been at scale, AI, comfortable with AI, who are already using AI in the business. The biotech client is using AI for oncology scanning. They understand the application of machine learning. So what we've found with Lighthouse, if there's a comfort with the application of or a interesting, a progressive motion to leverage AI in the future, but maybe there's a bit of discomfort. They want to get a few things right. We maybe want to get some operations efficiencies in. We want to make sure we've got the right skills. It's perfect for Lighthouse. Lighthouse it has this pragmatic approach to come in, have a conversation, look at maybe where we can leverage, off the shelf, trusted enterprise products to, improve the performance of your container environment, stabilize some of the VMware stuff, but every investment in Lighthouse is an investment in a AI integrated future. And we have gone into competitive conversations where other vendors or partners have been positioned effectively the same solution without the 2-year generative AI roadmap, and we've won in those scenarios. So any client who's struggling with public cloud cost, stability, operational efficiency, who wants to make an investment with a investment into some form of generative AI application within data center, Lighthouse is the business that's doing it right now. And we're learning.
Let me pause you on that, if I could, Ian, real quick. It wouldn't have to be integrated with the AI in that case, would it? I mean, there are tools out there that like Lighthouse could use to optimize your cloud infrastructure without AI. Would you do that? Or you say, no, here's how we do it?
No, we do. So IBM Turbonomic being the number one that we've had amazing success with. I know it has machine learning inside, so you could say that's AI. But where we've had a slight profound an exciting component of the sales motion is where we've put Lighthouse DC, the AI over the top of Turbo, and it's moved from somebody running CLI commands or API calls to actually speaking to it. And that's, do you know, I at the end of the day, Turbo is this amazing product that analyzes container performance, it analyzes consumption that can be recalled, reduces costs. I think this client saved $3 million in the first year. It's an amazing enterprise product. But what everybody gets really excited about is when they could go, hey, Turbo, how much can I save this year? And it comes back and goes 2.6 million based on this in language. Isn't that amazing? So you've got this hardcore piece of beautifully engineered software to analyze Kubernetes containers with I don't know, 11 years of development gone into it. And everybody gets its value. And then when the CFO can speak to it and go, how much am I going to save this year? And it speaks back to them based on the underlying API calls and a RAG call from watsonx AI. There's a moment of pure delight. That what I would say is democratization of access to traditional dark magic IT functions is profound within the business. The line of business can find the savings in the infrastructure by speaking to the system. So you're absolutely right. These are trusted, proven IBM automation products that we have put a relatively aesthetic generative AI layer over, but it has a remarkable impact to excite and inspire. But also, it's just the point where the next thing is, well, could we have that for our AWS pricing? Could we have that for our firewall? This next layer. And that's where we start to move into this co-creation motion.
Will you do custom work like that? Like you just mentioned, like if somebody says, hey, I'd like that same voice language interaction with X, Y, or Z. Would you say, let us look at it or no?
It's a good question. My pure software brain of building software companies would always say, no, we don't do custom. We look at customer requests. If we get enough, we'll put a feature request in, we'll log it in, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, and I don't want to take away the art of this, with watsonx.ai, to create multimodal support, it's actually quite straightforward. And once you're into the watsonx AI interface and you understand how to use it and point it at data sources and published APIs, you can actually start to create a AI to API layer quite quickly. So, what I would say is we could do a proof of value very quickly for a net new product. Obviously, the productionization, the stability, the logging, change, for all of the enterprise features that you would expect a product to be consistent, stable, that would take longer and a more significant investment. But at the moment, back to my motion of show, if we can show it welcome to clients, they get really excited.
I think it's interesting. I think the reason why it works, and look, I'm a huge fan of what you're doing here, is because I always consider three things as part of a successful engagement. One is you got to find the right people to be having this dialogue with. Secondly is a co-creation. It's the show, not tell. It's really to engage with intent. And the third is to elevate it. What you're doing is elevating that piece, that third one. Because sometimes you can get stuck, even with Turbonomic. Turbonomic is a fantastic product. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you saying that. And I know I'm from IBM. It's a fantastic product. What it'll do is it'll examine your infrastructure and tell you every area of optimization, provisioning or not, that you need to make. What we do see, though, sometimes is clients will see that and go, yes, awesome. And then they'll say, but I want to try to do it myself because it's given me the data to be able to do it myself. Not only that, you got to be careful who you're presenting to, because some people, do that for a living. They don't want to put themselves out of a job. By the way, they always come back. Just take some time and they go, yes, we need your help. Particularly it's the C-suite or somebody that comes back that needs to answer some of the questions that you raised. And now that you make those interactive in a natural language style, that's fantastic. It just takes it and elevates the whole engagement. Very nice. All right, so I got that. I don't know if I finished the last conversation or the piece that you had, though. I want to make sure I talked about the go-to-market. Oh, where do you want to be a year from now? Did you answer that?
Because of my experience of businesses that have worked and not worked, I have a unhealthy appetite to identify product market fit. and I obsessive in looking for patterns of buying behavior and software consumption. In 12 months, I would love to have seen repeat impact of this technology. I'd love to see CFOs, business line owners talking to their infrastructure and it being more than a novelty, but actually a massive accelerant to value, and across multiple industry domains. So very much in that motion of, look, we've got something really exciting. We've got a number of customers who are absolutely loving it and want more of it. But for me, it's okay, how do we be super critical on finding sections of industry where we can really create a solid business case, a solid proven impact model for clients that we're seeing emerge independent of geography, industry, scale. And in 12 months, if I could speak to you and we had, 10, 20, 30 customers who are engaged with conversational capabilities across their data center or indeed their cloud infrastructure, that would be a very pleasurable situation to be in for me, because we're starting to see those patterns and trends that you want, then you lean more into, right? That would be a good place.
Where can folks reach you, Ian?
Via IBM, I think, and via our website or direct to me. I think we're on YouTube, Spotify. It seems easy to get to me these days.
You're ubiquitous. Yeah. And website?
LighthouseTechnology.ai.
Anything that I didn't ask you, we could go on forever, as you know. I mean, this is an easy conversation, which is a testament or a compliment to you. Anything else that you would like to mention that we didn't get into?
I think that's pretty much it.
Let me give you a quick rapid fire to end then.
Oh.
All right, just quick. You don't have to belabor. We'll go quick. What is the hardest part of entrepreneurship?
Oh, hardest part? Maybe knowing when to stop.
We talked about that. All right, easiest part.
Starting is always the easiest part.
You think it's the easiest part? I don't know. Maybe for you it's the easiest part, but for everybody else, I'm not sure it's the easiest part. You'd have to quit your job. You have to figure out.
The hygiene of it. Yeah, entrepreneurs. What I would say is finding some like-minded people who to have the passion, authenticity to do it with you. I think is going to give you a much greater chance of success in your own mind.
Is your family fully supportive, or do they ever go, Ian, come on, man?
Well, that's a whole separate story. That's a whole separate story. The kids support me. The kids love it. When the kids see me on YouTube, they're jumping about. They love that. So we just go with that.
Okay, I'll go with that. Well, but you didn't say hardest part or easiest part. Neither of those are raising money. Is raising money someplace in the middle?
Oh, raising money is easy. But I would often suggest it's the wrong thing to do. I'll give you an example. We were looking at a YouTube channel and we were trying to record in 4K. We were struggling with storage. We were struggling with all this stuff. Immediately I was like, I need 2 cameras. I need some SSD. I need a bigger laptop. There's $10,000 spent, right? And rather than spending the money, what I actually did was I learned about Apple 422. I learned about HVAC HD. I learned about whether we can actually just transfer in 1080p and upscaling and downscaling YouTube. And an afternoon of learning about the reality of compression and resolution. Dude, we had the 1080p. It was absolutely fine. Didn't need any more equipment. Everything's like 10 times less in storage. Brilliant. And my concern with that would have been if we'd have just gone and raised $500,000 of VC funding, I'd have just been straight on buying the cameras and stuff. What it would have done by having that capital available, it would have offered me a financially like a purchased solution. And what I would have missed out on was all of the learning about ProRes and the iMovie or whatever the application we're using to edit. And by choosing not to spend the money, it forced me into a phase of discovery and learning, which has been hugely enjoyable and fulfilling. So when I think about startups and I think about raising capital versus bootstrapping, I am a huge advocate of bootstrapping. And I'm a huge advocate of trying to learn and do things intelligently and efficiently and optimized. For example, at Lighthouse, we use AI everywhere, right? our first question is, can AI do that? Can we get a product to generate content, answer questions, build a knowledge base, support with marketing, support with code writing, specifications, everything we look to optimize with AI. And by doing that, we have a phenomenally cost-efficient model right now that's allowing bootstrapping. Obviously, if we were getting into a massive scaling motion where we needed to open up a new geography or, get deep on, engineering, there may be a need for unwieldy capitalization, which, would make sense to go and raise money. But I would advise any entrepreneur that the seduction of venture should be completely ignored and avoided until you're at a point where you have absolute bulletproof market fit and it's a scaling motion that you're going to fund with a known outcome, so it's a known algorithm. You don't want the pressure as an entrepreneur. If you're empathetic and caring and thoughtful, you don't want the pressure of worrying about spending somebody else's money when really you should be trying to intelligently and sophisticatedly work your way around problems.
I think that's hard though, isn't it? Because if this was my first go at it, I may need it just for salary purposes. I mean, I've got to do something.
It's a tough one. How I would answer that is, and it may be contrarian, but if you are able to stay committed and passionate about an idea for long enough, you will find the time, if you're lucky enough to be able to save some money, get some money to buy you some time. And money that you've saved will make you so hungry and so focused. And that motion of behavior, that's the reality of entrepreneurship, sadly, Al. That is the reality. It's making do with little. I was actually in a conversation yesterday at lunchtime, and I see these crazy social media things with entrepreneurs with bottles of champagne in Ferraris in Dubai. That is not my experience of entrepreneurship. My experience of entrepreneurship is actually being a servant. You're a servant, you're serving a client base, and you're trying to be so tuned into their needs, and you're trying to predict their needs. And then when you deliver them something, you're trying to be so intuitively connected that you will adjust in real time what you're delivering and have tight feedback loops and do it in such a emotionally and financially efficient way that you can somehow creep through and sustain this journey where you can actually then start to serve more people and serve at a greater level. And I do genuinely believe that that's what entrepreneurship is about. And yes, you're going to throw things in that people maybe didn't know that what they wanted and that what they didn't expect and what maybe brings them delight and joy that isn't on the menu. You're going to build and innovate around that process of serving. But fundamentally, entrepreneurship is not about ego. Because every time entrepreneurship is about ego, to me, I've failed. But when entrepreneurship has been about service, I've succeeded. And if that's my data training for my next AI, it's got to be orientated around that. It's got to be.
That's awesome, man. I was going to end on that, but I always got to ask my favorite question. So I'm going to ask you this to end with. What's true, yet nobody agrees with you on?
It's the heretical question. I think how I answer that will tell you a bit more about how I am now. So I did raise money in San Francisco from Salesforce Ventures, which led me on a journey down Sand Hill Road. And I deeply researched Peter Thiel and his theories on what would be asked for me by VCs, which that was one of the questions. And
really,
I went to 7 VCs on Sand Hill. I'd spent 6 hours on the airplane trying to come up with an answer, which I thought was perfect. 6 VCs, not a single person asked it. But I don't think my answer was very good. In the process of researching my answer, I studied Peter Thiel. And what I learned, which I thought was quite profound, what he said, the answers to solutions are already around us in nature, and look to nature for inspiration. And I thought this was fascinating. And I apply that. And with my geology background, I do look to nature and look for answers within nature. And one of the things I've learned very recently, which may be slightly contrarian, is that I believe climate change and, the big problems that the Earth faces that are on the edge of human capability, I do believe the answers are around us. I believe the answers exist in forms of energy around us in the Earth. And it's our ability and innovation to find them. And I think a lot of that will come from minimalism and efficiency in the way we do things. But I do believe some of these existential threats. I think the solutions are there. We've just got to find them.
All right, that's great. Great answer, man. I appreciate everything that you brought today. You're like that. You probably don't see it. It's in the U.S. It's like the Heineken commercial. The most interesting man alive. All the experience that you have, all the different businesses you've been a part of, geology, go on and on. Fantastic, man. Thank you for chatting with me today. I greatly appreciate it.
I'll hopefully catch up with you and we can talk more about wine.
Yes, we do need to do that. We do need to. So, Ian Smith, everybody, thank you for being here. Please reach out to me on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it, even though we're selfish in our topics. So thank you so much. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.